You're listening to the LSG Sports Network, the authority on Texas high school football. Welcome to the Texas High School Football Coaches Show on Lone Star Gridiron. I'm Chris Doelle, and it's my belief that the men that make up the fraternity of Texas high school football coaches are much more than a bunch of thick-necked guys with whistles. They do so much more than teach technique and the X's and O's of football. They take young boys and change them into young men of character. They get kids to believe in themselves, to trust others, and to put others ahead of themselves. Texas high school football coaches are unique in how they impact the lives of these athletes as well as the generations those kids touch. In this show, I sit down with a different Texas high school football coach each time and learn about them. Not their record, not their on-field accomplishments, but who they are and what they believe and what it means to be part of the greatest sport in the greatest state. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Lone Star Gridiron Texas High School Football Coaches Show. I'm your host, Chris Doelle. This is Season 5, Episode 3. Today, we are going to Central Texas to introduce you to Coach Drew Sanders from Leander Vandegrift. He has always been such a good friend of Lone Star Gridiron. Really enjoyed talking with him and enjoyed the opportunity to learn a little bit more about him. I will introduce you to Coach Sanders right after these messages. Hey, I want to give a big thank you to this season's title sponsor, Mecca Sportswear, where they are all about celebrating achievement. They're honored that so many high schools, colleges, and universities have chosen Mecca's products to represent their institutions. Mecca supplies you with the very best in custom letter jackets, chenille letters, patches, blankets, banners, pins, certificates, and much more to motivate and celebrate achievement in athletics, academics, or the arts. They create high-quality custom awards that will fit your budget. To see why so many great schools around Texas choose Mecca Sportswear, call Sherry Armstrong or Billy Armstrong at 210-651-6592. Mecca Sportswear, the premier suppliers of letter jackets and awards for over 40 years.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Power Plus Mouth Guard. What is that? Well, it's a mouth guard that helps you perform better and also increases your strength, your balance, your stamina, reduces the G-forces which are found in concussions. And the way it does that is it aligns your jaw properly. So this mouthpiece not only protects you, but it's going to help you breathe better. And that's really what it comes down to. It puts your airways in a better alignment, and so that helps you breathe better, that helps you have better balance, helps you have better stamina, the more oxygen getting to your brain, the more oxygen getting to your muscles, and that's where this mouth guard can help you. So you can check them out online. Just go to powerplusmouthguard.com. All you have to do is hit / and shop, and it'll show you all the mouthpieces they have. But check them out and check out the website. Dr. Michael Hutchinson is the one who has designed this new technology, and I really do think it is very forward-thinking in helping reduce concussions, in helping you be more alert late in the game when you're going to be tired, your muscles are tired, lack of oxygen is starting to affect you. This mouth guard will help you in getting more oxygen to you. So check them out, powerplusmouthguard.com.
Everybody join me in welcoming Coach Drew Sanders from Leander Vandegrift to the show. How are you doing, Coach?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's interesting how I had thought that I had already had you on this show, and it was Terry Bennett who does your weekly in-season show, who asked me, hey, do you have Drew Sanders? I said, I think so. And I went and looked, and I didn't. So then I contact you, and you go, wait, don't I already do a show with you? But anyway, we're glad to have you on that show and this show.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Cool. So like I said, in this show, during the season we talk about your team, but now we're going to talk about you. Let's start with when you first became introduced to the game of football as a kid.
Oh man, that's going way back. For me, I grew up a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Amen.
And America's team. That's number one. And a Longhorn fan.
Right.
My dad got his master's degree from Texas, and so he always cheered for the Longhorns. So I just, of course, kind of did what he did. So that's kind of where my love for football started, and I've had a football in my room, in my hand, whatever, playing football since I can remember. I just always loved football, and I distinctly remember we lived in Mejia, but kind of lived in a little town outside of Mejia for a lot of my growing up years, probably till I was about 13. And so it was me and my older brother and my younger sister, and whoever I could convince to go throw the football with me, that's what was going to happen. And I'd go out many a times and just throw the football up to myself. I had nobody to play with, and just loved the game and could not wait. This is back before Pop Warner, really anything else. Small towns really didn't have that, and so I just couldn't wait till 7th grade football. And then have been playing it ever since. Played offensive line, if you believe that, and played some linebacker, and just loved it. I didn't care what position coach put me at. Man, I was just so glad to be hitting somebody and playing football. So that's kind of where I guess my love started. Was probably watching the Dallas Cowboys and the Longhorns, and just imagining, man, and of course, growing up in Mejia, I wanted to be a Mejia Black Cat, and I would stand to the side as the current guys in high school would walk by, and I'd pat them on the shoulder pads, and I distinctly remember this, and wanting, just could not wait to put the M on my helmet. Nice. And be like them, and we were always good in football, and so I wanted to be part of that winning team, and I saw how the people in town looked up to the football guys, and so that was probably the beginning of me just loving football.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. One thing I love about the show is I learn something new every time, and I learned there's a smaller town than Mejia.
That's right. Yeah, we lived in a little community called Shiloh, which there are probably 300 people in this little community outside of Mejia. I had jokingly called it a suburb of Mejia. If you've ever seen Mejia, you know why that's a joke.
Nice. So was it in high school that you decided you wanted to be a coach, or did you go to college and then try some other things?
Well, so interestingly enough, I've got a little bradded folder, three little folders, 3 brad folders that you used to use in school. It on the outside it has a fabulous future, and our job as a 7th grader was to predict our future, And so I went in there and set my goals, and this teacher was a very forward-thinking teacher, made us set goals for 5 years and 10 years and so on. I mean, really cool thought to have, doing as a 7th grader. And I still have that. My mom saved it, and so she gave it to me, and I still have that. And basically, I kind of planned out my life all around football. I was going to play for the Longhorns. I was going to play for the Cowboys. And then I was going to be a high school coach. I was going to be a college coach, and I was going to be a pro coach. And those were my goals, and that's what I was going to do. So I reached some of them. Some of them I have not. But, God limited me a little bit on my athletic ability and everything else, where the Longhorns and the Cowboys, weren't realistic. I did play for the Hardin-Simmons Cowboys, though. Nice.
So, take me to college. Tell me how that went.
Well, So being a coach has always been a goal of mine since 7th grade. But so I actually went to play at Hardin-Simmons. Honestly, I love football so much. I knew I was an okay high school player. I was second team all district. I wasn't some dominant high school player, but I knew that playing in college would make me a better coach. So I actually took the specific step of playing college football and therefore not quitting too. I played 4 years,
right?
Because I knew I was getting something out of it that would help me later. And so I'm really proud of being able to stick with it, even though I didn't play a ton. I started on special teams my whole time, and then probably played in a lot of games, but I was never really the starter with the exception of my senior year for a few games. Mm-hmm. But the friendships I made, the connections I made with my coaches, and really the education I got in coaching really helped me, because then I became a student assistant. So it took me 5 years to get my honors PE degree. I always joke about that, but not sure why that took that long. But anyway, and so I coached. I was a student assistant, mm-hmm. and coached for Coach Keeling, he's in Hall of Honor coach and done a lot of great things. Jimmy Keeling, and that education was like drinking from a fire hose. Just trying to figure all that stuff out, but I came into now coaching as my profession. I was a middle school coach and a high school coach, just with so much base knowledge.
Yeah. So take me stop by stop. Each of your coaching stops, what position you held up to today?
Okay, so I was at Mexia, went back to Mexia. So I told you guys I grew up in Mexia, so went back to Mexia, and I was a middle school coach. Mm-hmm. And had to start, obviously got to start somewhere. And a lot of my coaches said, Drew, you need to start in the middle school so you can understand what middle school coaches do if you want to be a head coach. And that was really good advice, mm-hmm. because I was 7th grade defensive coordinator. I coached 2 high school sports. I coached 3 middle school sports, had 5 sports, no conference, mm-hmm. and just worked all day. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And learned a lot. But I only spent a year there because my wife and I was newly married at that time. We both just kind of decided we wanted to do something different than the town I grew up in. Mm-hmm. And even though I love Mexia and appreciate all my friends that I still have from Mexia and all the relationships I have. And so then I went to Colleen High, worked for a guy named Lee Bridges, and just went there as my first high school job, went there as defensive line coach. Like I said, I played D-end at Hardin-Simmons, so that was kind of my expertise. So went and coached defensive line. And then we were kind of set to be in Colleen High for a little bit. And then Lee gets the new job gets the head coaching job at San Antonio Taft. And so he asked us to come with him. We say yes. And so I worked at Taft for 5 years, and we went to the state championship game in 2001. We had just so many great years, quarterfinals, playoffs almost every year. And so that was a lot of fun and great development. And then eventually I went from special teams coordinator to defensive coordinator, to kind of basically running everything for Lee. Mm-hmm. And then Lee went and wanted to open up Stevens.
Right.
And so he opened up San Antonio Stevens. I went with him and was the defensive coordinator for a year. And enjoyed that, and got the experience of opening a new school, which was key for me later with Vandegrift.
Right.
And then in 2006, I got my first head coaching job at WB Travis mm-hmm. there in Austin, and so was there for 3 years and took over that program. It was kind of a downtrodden program at the time, and we won more games in a 3-year period than they had won in over 20 years.
Nice.
And increased participation, made some lifelong relationships I still have to this day. And I learned how to be a head coach. I thought I knew it all, and obviously I found out very quickly when you are new at something you don't. And so I had to learn a lot on the job. Was a head coach at 31 and made a ton of mistakes, and then got the Vandegrift job in 2009. Christmas Eve 2008, I was offered the job, and have been at Vandegrift ever since, building this program and loving every second of it.
Nice. So, you've seen a good part of the state. Never out to East Texas, North Texas.
It's true, East Texas, yeah.
Right. But you've opened some new schools. Talk about that opportunity and challenge of a new school. Yeah,
that's a great word, challenge, because it is extremely difficult, because what people don't understand when they go into a new school is you have just, not only do you have a vacuum of leadership anytime you come in to think, but you just truly have nothing. Like mm-hmm. these guys, and sometimes they're not even capable of leading. Like I remember when we started, I only had freshmen and sophomores. They were not capable of understanding what it meant to lead. And so really it was just us coaches trying to figure it out. Now, by the time they became juniors, they started to figure it out. Mm-hmm. But that is probably the most difficult thing that's probably not talked about a ton. Everybody thinks about, man, you got to buy all this stuff, organize this stuff, hire people. Yeah, all that stuff is stuff that, really anybody can do. But I think the development of your leadership and how you do that and expecting to do well from the beginning, that's one of the things I'm most proud of at Vandegrift is, we almost average 9 wins after this decade of football. We almost average 9 wins a year, and that includes all of our startup time. And so, for us to be able to go from not even having school colors, a building, not even having a mascot to, doing what we've done is, I think, a large part in credit to our leadership training and the things that we do with kids and expecting. We started with the thing I got from Coach Bridges named ETW, a little acronym, and just stands expect to win. I mean, everything you want to do, you want to expect positive things, and I think that's translated super well. But it's been really fun because in a new school, they don't come up to you and go, hey, that's the way we've always done things. Coach always did this. You don't really have that. And so you get to set all that stuff.
If you're looking for a quick and easy way to raise a bunch of money for your sports team, 99 Pledges is the best way for football teams and booster clubs to raise the most money with the least amount of effort. Donors can donate online. Each player gets their own donation page that they can share with their friends and family all over the country, like grandparents in Florida by email, text, Facebook, or any of the social media outlets. By going online with 99 Pledges, it's easy to spread the word about your fundraiser, keep everyone involved and informed. Because of this, 99 Pledges has seen teams raise over $30,000. And teams like the Katy Tigers have exceeded their fundraising goal. That's the best part. Teams keep an average of 95% of what they raise. Players don't have to go door to door or track down donations. They can save all that energy for where it counts, on the gridiron. Check them out at 99pledges.com. They are an excellent organization. You're going to be so glad that your next fundraiser is through these guys.
Did you play Texas high school football? If you did, you're part of an elite group, the Brotherhood of Texas High School Football. All football players, past and present, who have ever suited up in the Lone Star State are eligible. Go to LoneStarGridiron.com/brotherhood. And thank you for the part you played in the greatest sport in the greatest state.
They don't come up to you and go, hey, that's the way we've always done things. Coach always did this. You don't really have that. And so you get to set all that stuff.
Nice. So when a new school starts, it generally pulls from other existing schools. Did you get any of that where you got some of that pushback? Well, I came from this school and this is how we do it.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, obviously it came from Cedar Park. Some people may not know that listening to this podcast. So they came from Cedar Park. Obviously Cedar Park was and is still a very successful program. Yep. So some of the parents came over with some ideas from there and kids. And some of the stuff that was good, that I liked and wanted to do, then I would keep. But at the same time, I would say, no, I don't want to do it I want to do it a little differently or whatever. And the good thing was I came as an experienced head coach after having 3 years. And so that really helped me know what to keep and what to be like, no, this is non-negotiable. We're going to do it this way. And that's not necessarily wrong what they did. That's just their way. And I want to do it this way. And when it's explained right and given a chance, most people will kind of understand, what you're trying to do.
Got it. Now, you mentioned a few coaches, Jimmy Keeling, Lee Bridges. Can you talk about some of the coaches you've worked with and maybe some specifics that you learned from each of those?
Well, first one I always want to mention is my high school coach. Paul Hurst recently retired, but he was a kind of a 3A head coach, several different schools, and amazing Christian man. He was the one that kind of confirmed my thought about coaching. Because I had kind of written those goals down, but how much can you really know what you want to do when you're in 7th, 8th grade, right? And so when I watched him interact with his coaches and how he had fun. Like he literally smiled every day. But he still had discipline, and but he was going to have a good time. He'd come in, he's loud, and he'd come in and get on to somebody really hard, but they wanted to, do what he said too. He didn't just come in yelling and didn't have a relationship. Mm-hmm. And so I began to think really seriously about becoming a coach. And by the time I graduated, that was, I was set on that. By the time I graduated high school, and in large part due to Coach Hurst. And I always tell him that me and him still have a relationship, and he tries to come to about 2 of my games a year, and he's just, an awesome person. And then, of course, we mentioned Coach Keeling. Coach Keeling, so Coach Hurst, I kind of learned passion for the game and being yourself. Coach Keeling, I learned confidence. When he walked into the room at halftime, I just couldn't wait to hear what he had to say. I knew that he was going to tell us something that was going to be the key to winning the game. Mm-hmm. And I feel certain that everybody on our team felt the exact same way. And so he carried a confidence that was just kind of, it just rubbed off on you. And so that's one of the things I learned from him. He would stand in front of the team, and everyone would quiet down on their own. And I try to do that myself too, because I learned I hadn't really seen that. I learned that from him. And then Coach Bridges was a guy that I learned a lot from him. But to try to hone it in on a couple of things, he really valued relationships, and he was very deliberate about making sure that I knew that he valued me. Multiple times throughout the year, he'd get on us as coaches. But multiple times throughout the year, he would grab me and say, "Hey, how you doing? What's going on with your family? What's happening with your kids? How are you doing in the classroom?" And he would make me sit down in his office and ask me those questions. He wouldn't just do it in passing. He'd be like, "Hey, come by. How you doing?" He was just very, and I'm sure that wasn't just me he did that with. I'm sure he was doing that with all of his coaches. Right. So, that the relationship piece, understanding that, if I was ever going to be a head coach, I needed to have all these things. But, being able to check in with your coaches, making sure they see that you value them, was so important for me. And then, of course, some other guys that I've competed against. I've competed against Joe Willis, who's over at Colleyville Heritage. He's a good friend of mine, taught me a lot of lessons on the field. And Chris Ross, who's over at Red Oak. I think those are two of my biggest competitors that I've gone against that have taught me stuff on the field, but also shared stuff with me and made me a better football coach. But they're also just good human beings too, and guys that are in it for the right reason and coaching hard, and their teams are always prepared. They'll always win, no matter where they are. They'll always win. And do a good job. So a couple of those guys come to mind too, as just good dudes.
Nice. So in addition to the X's and O's, what I've seen over the years talking with coaches is that when you first start, it's all about X's and O's and wins and losses. And somehow, somewhere along the line, it transforms into being about those kids and developing them. Talk about that transition for you and the importance of that.
Yeah, you're right. And the older you get, the more you realize that truly is all it's about. It's very rewarding to see the kids come back and want to talk to you, and they want a relationship with you, which is humbling, because I want a relationship with them. So it's neat. But yeah, you start out and you're just dead set on being the next Newt Rodney or Lombardi or whoever it is, Lou Holtz, you name it, and I distinctly remember coaching in Mahia and having my seventh grade O-line in front of me on a knee, and I was explaining to all of them at one time how to zone block. Probably not the best way to do it. Make them get on the knee and all of you listen. But hey, I was a rookie. And so I've got them all there, and I start talking, and one of my guys says, "Coach," I said, "No, now's not the time for questions, son." So I keep talking about the zone block, and Coach, I'm like, no, son, no, not the time. And so I finally get to the point where he asks me again, and I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, all right, what is it? And he goes, Coach, I have my knee in this ant bed. Can I move? And so, I laugh and say, of course, and I try to help him get the ants off and think I'm about to be fired. Day one is this kid has an allergic reaction to ant bites, But that was a good reminder, like, okay, calm down, dude. You're not all that. So, make sure you're taking care of our guys, and I'll never forget that. And it is important to take care of our kids, and the more I do it, the more I realize, and that's this year I had a young man that I would have kicked off my team 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago. But I've realized that not everybody needs to be coached the same way. And so with this young man, I handle it differently than I would have in the past. I met with parents. I had multiple conversations. I asked him, why was he acting like that? And why didn't he want me to coach him? And how does it feel better? How does he like to be coached? And so this guy became a first team, all-district guy for us. And that's not necessarily about on-the-field success, because I had no idea he was going to do that.
Right.
It was more about, because this was his freshman year, that this was going on. But it's just more about, taking care of each kid and making sure that, that they know I care about them. And I've found that the more I do that, the more that they play hard for me and want to please and want to do what we ask, and the results have been there.
Right. Excellent. In talking with coaches around the country, it is just understood that Texas is the gold standard when it comes to high school football. Can you kind of talk to that, explain why that is?
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true, and I have had the opportunity. I've gotten a chance to make some videos and stuff over the years, and so through these videos, through Championship Productions and stuff, they've been awesome to me. People will buy these, and then I always leave my email on them, and they'll email me. And so I've had emails and now phone conversations from people from Green Bay. Georgia. Today I got an email from a person in Georgia. You name the city or state, and I bet I've talked to somebody at least from that state. It's been crazy. And every one of them, they all like, well, I've been in Wisconsin this whole time, but I would love, my dream is to come down and just coach a few seasons in Texas, just to see what it's like. And so that is absolutely true. I'm going to go speak in Chicago here in a few weeks. I'm going to go speak in Seattle. I've spoken there before. And everybody, when I'm talking, it's like, okay, so tell me about this thing called the athletic period. What is this, And, of course, all kinds of different things that we could do with that, and other things, too, that whether it's the budgets or the crowds or, how kids want to run our plays from Pop Warner up. All of it's true, and all of it's really cool, and that's why people don't understand, but Texas 6A high school coach in 5A too is basically like a small college coach probably across the nation.
Well, yeah, look at the state championship turnout. It beats the bowl game turnout.
Yeah, right. People are nuts about football here. Definitely.
So, talk about. Whether it's a young kid coming into coaching or somebody from out of state who just wants to get in with Texas, talk about, you mentioned about it earlier, the importance of starting at the middle school level.
As far as a coach, starting younger, I think number one is that it teaches you to just understand the basics of all positions. And so I coached offense. I coached every position on offense. And honestly, from that, I still use some of the knowledge that I gained from that year. It's crazy, 22 years later. And then number two, it shows you're humble. You have a little humility. You're not too good to go coach at the middle school. Number three, if you ever want to be a head coach, it connects you immediately to your middle school coaches. Right. And when I tell my younger coaches, like, guys, you understand that I started at the middle school, they just can't believe it. I'm like, yeah, everybody has a path, and that was one of the best things I did. So I think all of those things factor into someone willing to start at at the middle school level, and so many benefits from it.
Definitely. Wow. Coach Drew Sanders, I want to thank you so much for sitting down with me and sharing some of your insight. Sure do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been, Chris, appreciated, and it's been such a fun interview, and if I could ever do anything for you, let me know.
Hey, once again, I want to thank Coach Drew Sanders for sitting down with me and sharing some of his background, some of his story. And I want to thank you folks for giving me what I consider the most valuable gift, your attention. And I know it's not because of me. It's because of these coaches, these great stories, these inspirational messages. But I want to thank you for taking the time to hear this stuff. And also, if you get a chance, get out there and share this show on your social media pages with friends, with fellow coaches. Just get out there and help us get these stories in front of more people. All right. Until next time, I'm your host, Chris Daly, and we'll see you at the game.